Hey everybody, happy Wednesday. It's Wednesday, March 25th, and welcome back to this Motivation Beyond Measure Wednesday Flow Shot. I'm Brian Traskos, co-creator of Sensation-Based Motivation Coaching, and I'm so glad you're here with me again today. You know, we are in the middle of our 2-week flow shot series. Now, oftentimes when we do these flow shots, we just kind of do a little tip here and there to help us move along in the flow of life during the day. But we decided in the current situation that we're in, we really wanted to do a whole series over 2 weeks to help us thoroughly reprogram our immune system at the core, and recognizing that our immune system is really part of our human system, who we are as human beings. So what process can we really go through to develop a really powerful and robust immune system base? And most of us need to do a little bit of reprogramming around that. So to this point, we've done the body tuning practice. And so look back a couple of days ago and you'll find the whole body tuning practice there. We're going to take a moment now to go through it in a very cursory, abbreviated style, because right now we're in the middle of our emotional resistance archetypes. We've done the body tuning. Now we're doing the emotional tuning. We need to really look at ourselves as whole beings. We have all of these parts. We need to bring all of these parts, remember, into coherence. We have to get them all tuned so that they're resonating, vibrating at the same frequencies and the same rates, so that the whole orchestra sounds like it's all playing in the same pitch and in the same key, which we know is a really amazing and powerful experience in and of its own right. All right, so let's go ahead and just do a very abbreviated body tuning practice. I hope you've already done it this morning and you're coming to our flow shot now, has been doing it. But to get in the mood, let's walk through an abbreviated version of it. And if you haven't done it, make sure you do it at some point today. Okay, here we go, gang. All right, here we go. Just an abbreviated version. Let's just take a moment or two to tune the body. All right, so a little bit of shaking, checking in, noticing what areas feel tight or tense. All right, let's do a little more vibrating, a little more shaking. Okay, let's work it up to a blither. Nice, let's do a sigh. Good, another one, big blither. Nice, another sigh. All right, let's just do a little cursory tapping. Right around the back. Do a little bit around the thymus. Good, let's go ahead and just tap down the front. Good. Okay, if you remember this from a couple of days ago, just do a little bit of rubbing on the neck and the neck points at the top. Good, rubbing a little bit on the sides of the neck. Again, look back at the full flow shot on body tuning to get the whole series in there, okay? The whole series. We're just doing a little cursory through right now. Okay, good. And then, of course, let's get down into the legs. So remember, the legs are right down the outsides of the legs in those stomach 36 points. And then right down in those spots right here on the top of the feet between the toes. Nice long sighs. Do a little tappy tap on the feet for the kidney 1 points. All right, very nice, very nice. Let's just do an opening or two. Here we go. Little contraction and an opening. Good, little contraction, little more. And an opening. And another little contraction, a little more. Good. And then that heart opening again. So as we allow the heart to open, come to a nice gentle barrier almost like you have a tight garment on or tight shirt. You can feel maybe the tight little, or a little bit of tension, gentle tension maybe across the front of the chest or into the arms. It looks like that from the side. And you only may be able to go that far too, by the way. Go as far as it feels right for you. Or just opening up the heart space. Just going to become important for what we're talking about today in terms of our emotional resistance archetype. Nice long sigh. Follow any release. All right, good. So there's a little cursory body work, of course. Again, go back and look at that body tuning practice we had done before, and then find yourself seated, feet on the ground, knees relaxed, dinosaur tail settled, crown of the head lifted up towards the sky. You may choose to lower your eyelids just a little bit. And just allow your breath to become quiet. Remember, when we feel stressed and when we feel anxious and when we are in emotional resistance, our breath can become ragged and shallow and rough. So we are consciously quieting the breath down, calming it, smoothing it, soothing it, so that we really have to pay attention to hearing the breath. So we bring our awareness to hearing and listening to the breath. Now, as we're listening to the breath, lengthening our exhale just a little bit more, and allowing the breath to flow back in at whatever pace it wants to, let's address the second emotional resistance archetype. So yesterday we talked about the judge, about the emotional resistance of judgment. So if you haven't seen that, make sure you go back and look at that before. If you're here with us today, awesome. Go back and look at it right after you watch this one. If you haven't seen that one yet and you're watching this on a recording, go back and watch that one first and then come on over here. Okay. All right. So the second emotional resistance archetype is the victim. Now, the victim energy, the sense of emotional resistance is that someone else or something else is the cause of my problems. And when we start talking about the victim energy, this can be really, really hard for people sometimes to wrap their head around, and hard for to experience as well. So just to let you know, I have a lot of compassion for this particular emotional resistance archetype, because oftentimes when we bring this up, people will say, but hang on a second, someone did do something to me. And that's true. That's true. Do terrible things happen to people in this world? Absolutely they do. We find ourselves in circumstances lots of times as children, disempowered, and in relationship with people who are not treating us in the way that we would like to be treated. If you know my story, I have received much of that treatment in my own life as well. And so I'm really coming to you today from a heartfelt place of experience and working with many people over the years who have been in similar places as well. So we're not denying that terrible atrocities happen in this world, whether they're physical abuse or sexual abuse or molestation or being robbed or being, there's so many horrible things that we experience as people. But the fact is that, those things have happened, and we can't change that they've happened. And, the idea of being a victim actually goes there's two sides to this coin. When we think about that someone else or something else has been the cause of our problems, that can either be on the side of the coin of we hate the person or the thing, and we hate it so bad we just want to push away from it. We want to get separation from it. We're repulsed by it, and we feel that in our physiology. On the other side of that, we can play the victim actually and be absolutely in love with something or someone else, and want to be attached to that person or that someone else. And so in that case, we call that like the joy side. So either have hate or joy. There's really two sides to this energy. And either side, to look at it, it's really about attachment. It's either we are attached and trying to push it away and being repulsed by it, or we're attaching to it and trying to pull it forward closer to us, because something outside of ourselves is responsible for how we feel. That's really what this is about. And so when we're going through life and we read something or on Facebook, or we read something in a magazine, or we're talking with a friend, or we're talking with a neighbor or a spouse or a parent or a family member or whatever it is, and we get this sense of injustice maybe in some ways, that someone else is doing something that so profoundly impacts us. Like, what you're doing is doing this to me. Can't you say what you're doing is doing this to me? And so that in essence is playing that victim role. That's a source of resistance that we experience emotionally. And when we attach our own experience to someone else's behavior, that creates a blockage in our system, and again, a reflexive constriction in our musculature that closes off all the things we've talked about: blood flow, lymph flow, nerve impulses. It creates tension, it creates pain, all those things. And it definitely does markedly lowers our immune system, because now we have outsourced our own physiology to someone else. Someone else becomes now the controller of what we're experiencing when we are so attached to what they are doing or what they did in the past. And so this emotional resistance archetype is all about attachment. So what do we do about this one? How do we address this? Well, really the key for this is acceptance, the word acceptance. So let's talk about that for a moment. Again, we have to realize that whatever has happened, and we can't go back and change it at all. And whether we feel like justice was served or not with whatever happened, we can choose to have those painful events of the past define us, or we can define them. That's really the ultimate choice here, folks. We can either choose to have those things define us, or we can define them. And this really comes down to what I like to call choosing primal empowerment versus primal disempowerment. And so I'll just share just how important this was for me with my experience when I, in my life, was really, really steeped in this victim disempowerment energy and what it was doing to my physiology. I was really incredibly sick, and I was in a tremendous amount of pain. And until I realized that, wait a second, what if I just decided that I came into this world primally as a human. I was born into this world, yes, physically disempowered because I was dependent on my caregivers. I was emotionally and mentally disempowered because, again, I was dependent on my caregivers. But is it true that I was potentially spiritually fully empowered? Could I make that choice? Could I decide that I came into this world fully spiritually empowered? And that I chose my circumstances, I chose my parents, I chose my siblings, I chose all of the events that would come to pass in my life, whether they were painful or joyful, wanted or unwanted, whatever they were, strictly for the purpose of me growing and becoming a better servant of other people while I'm here on the planet. Could I make that choice? Or I could choose to say, I came in fully disempowered, and I had no choice, and everything happened to me, and I had to figure it out after that what to do with it. Now, I think that decision is probably the most important decision anybody can ever make in their entire life. Are we choosing that we are born fully empowered spiritually, or are we choosing we're fully disempowered spiritually? Are we choosing and saying that we came to this earth with a purpose, with a plan, with a mission, that we were actually born with a purpose, or are we born without a purpose? And for me, when I decided I was born with a purpose and I chose everything that happened to me strictly so that I could transcend it and move on from it and grow from it, and actually that's exactly what I needed in my life at that time in order for me to become who I am right now. And so that I can serve people on a much deeper level, and I can have much more compassion for people and empathy and connection and understanding simply because I made that primal decision of empowerment. And this brings you to a place of acceptance. So what is acceptance really about? Acceptance is, and actually I might say too, that acceptance grows out of the work that we did yesterday. So make sure you go back and watch yesterday's flow shot so they can understand how it bleeds into today. But the idea of acceptance, folks, is that acceptance is about seeing the whole plan. And acceptance is not the same as resignation, by the way. Resignation is about, well, there's nothing I can do about it, so I'm just going to accept it. But that's not acceptance in this energy. That's resignation. That's, well, there's nothing I can do about it, and I'm just going to sit back and I'm not going to do anything. And I'm just going to continue to be disempowered. Acceptance is, look, I can see everything for exactly what it is. I see that the things that I don't want and the things that I do want are all part of the same plan. They're all part of the same thing. And it's just my judging whether I want them or I don't want them depends on my level of attachment to them. So acceptance starts to free ourselves of attachment. The idea of acceptance allows us to see everything as having a purpose. Everything as having a connection to my purpose, and my purpose of stepping in and serving people at a greater and deeper level. Now, I don't know what your purpose is. If that's something you're interested in exploring, again, I would really highly recommend you reach out to a sensation-based motivation coach. That's what we do with people. We help people define their purpose, their mission, and the path to be able to bring that into the world. That's just some of the work that we do, folks. I highly recommend you do it. These people go through a training process with us for 9 months, and they live it, and then they bring it to other people. It's really a wonderful, wonderful experience for everybody involved. But coming back to this idea of acceptance, gang, we really have to realize that everything is here with a reason and a purpose. And when we can accept it and begin to see it all as whole, all as one thing, it allows us to begin letting go of the emotional attachment that someone else or something else is responsible for our experience and responsible for how we feel in this world. So, I'll close today with another natural law question. I left you with one yesterday. I'll leave you with one today, specifically associated with this emotional resistance archetype of the victim. And here's the question that I ask myself, and I, suggest that maybe you can ask yourself as well. What am I not willing to take responsibility for in my life? What am I not willing to take responsibility for in my life? Because when I get the answer to that question, it'll tell you where the block is. That's where the block is. Whatever the answer is that I'm not willing to take responsibility for, it tells you exactly what is stopping the flow of energy through my system and stopping me from having the most robust immune response that I could have, not only to viruses and to pathogens, but to even belief states, people's moods, all those kinds of things. So I would love to leave that with you today. Let's just take a few breaths, come back into tuning our breath, quieting our breath. And with that said, if this was helpful to you, if this was enjoyable to you, if you think it was valuable and worthy of a share, please do that. Please share it with your friends. Please comment down below. Let's get a thread going about this topic and this emotional resistance archetype of the victim and how acceptance plays an important role. And go ahead and like the page too so that more people can find it. I look forward to seeing you back here tomorrow, which will be Thursday at noon again for our Thursday Flow Shot, where we talk about the next emotional resistance archetype. All right, have a wonderful day, everyone. Love you much. See you tomorrow. Bye.